She comes from Sacramento, and I think she ran into a little traffic. But she is here. There will be some handouts. I thought I might have just a short chat with you ahead of time, and that is to let you know that you'll be getting information in section about an opening of display of survivors that Barbara's going to come down and tell you about. Aren't you, Barbara? We have an exhibition of photographs that's going to be opening in the Intercultural Gallery, or is that what they call it now?
It's now we do a lot of AKA, the ICC Gallery, now known as the Center for Culture, Gender, and Sexuality. It's on the first floor of the Student Union building toward the back. And it is an exhibition of photos taken by Ilka Hartman, who was for very many years a faculty member in this series and is a professional photographer. And she's taken these amazing photographs of survivors who are part of our community. The opening is Thursday, May 3rd from 4 to 6. So please stop by, and please, if you're not able to come to the opening, the exhibit will be up in the Student Union Gallery throughout the month of May through graduation.
Thank you. Aha! We have a complex and exciting program for you today. Why don't you just move back? Oh, okay. I'll wait to do the introductions. Mathilde is giving our AV person her instructions. I think it was 4 years ago, perhaps 5, that Ilka Hartman, who has been associated with this program in one way or another for a long time, said to me, I have someone you have to invite to the lecture series. And she told me a bit about Mathilde. And you all ready to go after I introduce you? Or do you need a minute to?
That's what I'm saying.
Sure. Okay. Well, I don't have any problem. I could tell stories.
Yeah.
Okay, so turn your phones off, please. Thank you. In case you needed to remember that. In any case, Mathilde came and spoke to us. I have a feeling it was one of the first times that she spoke to a large group, but her energy and commitment to making the lives of the people who have survived the Rwandan genocide touched us all very deeply. And she has come just about every year since then to talk with students and faculty, and has become a very good friend of ours. We, in turn, have responded to her call and support in several different ways her organization called the Friends of Rwanda. Mathilde goes back to Rwanda every other summer. Is this the summer? She's going this summer. And when she went after appearing here for the first time, 2 of our students said, you know, we have business in Africa. They were going to do internships and work for some NGOs in Africa, and they made their way from Kenya and were you both in Kenya? To Rwanda to visit and to spend time at the orphanage that Mathilde and the Friends of Rwanda support. In addition to all of her work in Rwanda, Mathilde teaches at Consumnes College And as I said, she's the president of the Friends of Rwanda. What we're going to do today is, Mathilde has brought a presentation. You know, the theme of our lecture series this year is Reverberrations of Genocide. And what that essentially means is, what are the effects? How does genocide not only play out as it's happening, but also what happens years down the road? We have had Holocaust survivors come and talk about how their experience has affected their lives. We have had the Kinder from the Kinder Transport talk to you about what their experience meant to them. And today we're going to have Mathilde talk about the effects of genocide in Rwanda. To refresh your memories, although I know most of you have read the information in your reader, and I think we have some handouts as well that we'll hand out after, or do you want to during?
I guess after.
Okay, well, we have some more handouts for you. To give you some additional information on the effects of genocide in Rwanda. The genocide is known as happening for a 1-month period of time in 1994 in April. At the end of the month, approximately 800,000 people had been murdered. It's a stunning amount of people to have died in 30 days. But there are some very special things about Rwanda and how the people of that country have had to recover from their experience. We hope that you will give a warm welcome to Mathilde Mukatabana. I'd like to say hello.
Hello. I have to tell you, I just left my notes in my car, but that's quite all right. I first of all wanted to thank you again for inviting me at Sonoma State. To tell you the truth, among the few things that have been great in my life, it has been a connection to this campus on many levels. First, even expressing things about genocide, you don't find many forums when you can do it. And exchanging ideas and understanding that the people sitting in front of you understand without having much is very important for anyone who has survived anything. But also you helped us tangibly, in a tangible manner. I'm hoping we'll be able to see the children that the money we got from Sonoma State has helped once I went back to Rwanda and Friends of Rwanda Association. But not only that, the first few students who went back with me and helped me are here, Becky and Judy. And it was an incredible experience, as they'll probably tell you themselves. Since then, I've taken a couple of other students, but it's always a special, you have a special place in my heart because it was the first time for students to get out of the United States and go into the village and connect with those children. It was an incredible thing. So I don't know how to express the gratitude that we feel. What we have done is that one house in those small houses is named after Sonoma. That's all we can do. We don't have anything we can do with that. Not only that, I feel a sense of friendship. When I saw Larry coming to our commemoration of genocide and the words he said, it was not just anybody. It was someone who felt deeply about what we felt, and that the connection helps a lot in terms of how people can recover. And you can imagine what the children feel, the people who survived the genocide, when they know that in one corner of the world, someone is actually thinking about them. It doesn't have to take money, just that aspect of thinking that they are not orphans. They have someone who can think about them is a big thing. And that's what I try to accomplish, even though the money is always scarce, but it doesn't matter. It's not about the money. It's about that kind of a connection and to feel that we care. As the years go by, genocide or the people who were affected, it becomes easier for people to know what it is. But it doesn't become easier for people who have been in genocide. You know, the scars are deep. When you see the children, you know, I'm not going to be speaking in the PowerPoint you are going to present, but you see the children, the young children were born during genocide. Most of them were not alive. Some of them are the product of rape. You know, some of them have AIDS. That was also a weapon of genocide. So you see those children who are out there who are still carrying the scars of genocide. So it hasn't ended yet. And I gave you a handout of also the people still being killed, especially when they try to testify in the court system in Rwanda. So they are still carrying the burden of having to not to say anything, you know, to try to preserve whatever life is left. I don't want to paint that picture because Rwanda is doing actually well considering what it went through 13 years ago. You know, the country is building at least economically. But the psychological scars and the social reconstruction is yet to be accomplished. Because as the society is trying to rebuild, there are also forces that are questioning whether even a genocide took place. And those people are more powerful. They are very powerful. There are some in the United States. You'll see a letter we wrote to Congresswoman Cynthia McKinney in her analysis on Rwanda and genocide. You know, she's in a public eye. You know, she has the forum. Many people who have loved, like what we did, the Hotel Rwanda. Hotel Rwanda symbolized what was good, the humanity, and someone saving people who were not from his ethnic group. But what ended up happening is that now he has become one of the worst revisionists you can think about. And he has a forum, he has the money. You know, he's trying to explain genocide in light of Rwandan history. He's rewritten whole Rwandan history to fit genocide. And it's something that, you know, you'll see many letters that we've written about Rusesabagina, the hero of Hotel Rwanda. When the movie passed, we all knew it was fiction, but we were happy because there was someone who could symbolize Hutus who saved their Tutsi neighbors. But what is happening now is that he's trying to clean the image of all the Hutus, including the extremist Hutus, by doing that. And he's gaining, in the last 12 months, he has been invited on college campuses. He has been invited he got a mayor in the White House, meaning that his ideas are the ones that are promoted there. So we have a hard task ahead of us, or anyone. And even my own friends, you know, the friends who are pretty progressive, when I was telling them to read what Rusesabagina was putting out there, they were shocked. But not only that, they were saying, no, he's a good man. He's a great guy. He can't be doing that. But you have to keep in mind that Rusesabagina was created by Hollywood. He's not, what was there was good for a movie. And we loved the movie because at least it put outside genocide in Rwanda. That's about it. But when you go out there, 1,200 who were in Hotel Rwanda, and you have all their testimonies will tell you he didn't save anyone. People could go to the Prime Minister residence. That was heavily guarded by people at the UN. The hotel was open for everyone. Those people were coming in. If they had wanted to kill people, they could have done it. The only reason they didn't do it because one was France. France wanted a mandate to be the one dealing with genocide in Rwanda, to be given green light at the UN. So they had to protect a few people. That's number one. The second was that Hotel Rwanda was a Belgian business. And these people were doing business with them. They were having phone calls. Rusesabagina was just a manager who was there coming from another hotel. He came to manage when the people had left. And that was fine. I mean, the heroic acts, whatever he accepted to do is fine. But what is happening now is he's saying that the Hutus actually were the ones who were killed during genocide, in a majority. Not only that, that even if the Tutsis were killed, it was a self-inflicted genocide. Those people coming from Uganda pushed the people so the Tutsis were killed. And if they are Hutu who killed, it was because they were scared for their lives. Now, if you go back and read the Rwandan history, you'll know that since 1959, there was a total disfranchisement of Tutsis. That's why we left. You couldn't go to school, you couldn't go into politics. So those people in Rwanda were completely voiceless. There was no voice for the Tutsis. So it doesn't explain all those years leading to genocide. But that's what he's proposing out there. That Rwandan society he's playing on people like Cynthia McKinney and then the black leaders especially, because he knows they can push his agenda. And he's saying that the Tutsis had enslaved Hutus. Now, if you study Rwandan history, you'll see there was never slavery in our history. It was, if anything, a society built upon some kind of hierarchy, like in many societies. It was a kingdom. But as far as that oppression that people keep bringing back to explain genocide, it's just a build-up. It's a revising history to fit within the parameters that they wanted to portray. So that's about, and no matter what we do, as long as those ideas are out there, we are not safe. And I think that's what you said last week when you said when we have to remember always genocides. Genocides. I mean, we go and remember genocides. And it's not ending. Sudan is involved in the genocide. And there's one piece of paper I gave you. Please read it and understand. There was a study done at the University of Oregon. And that study was saying that people don't care after the first victim, even good people. Once you start counting to 10, then people really pretty much, they are all right. Even if you die at 100, 1,000, a million, doesn't matter. People stop counting. I had a friend who lost a sister, and we went to comfort her, and she was crying, and she said, and we were saying, it's very difficult at this point, and we pretty much understand. She said, you can't understand. Because you lost so many people at the same time, it's not the same thing. I suffer more. I suffer more. And this is what it has become. Genocide, like in Rwanda, leaves those faceless people. It leaves the faceless people on the earth. And even people who have a good heart really don't go beyond the masses of people dying. But I lost 90% of all my people. 90%. My father knew how to sing. No one sees my father. They see that person who was on the side of the street who was dead. And this is what people are grappling with even in the reconstruction process in Rwanda. Because our society is diverse. Many people are in Rwanda right now and they are trying to come up with a homogeneous society. It's impossible. One thing is that the people whose issues are not addressed fully are the people who survived the genocide. They are still dealing with psychological problems. They are still dealing with poverty. They are still dealing with disease. They are dealing with complete social isolation in many cases. And that, regardless of the infrastructure of roads that is being built, Rwanda being seen as the next Hong Kong, it doesn't matter. There's still a group of people who are still dying inside. And it's something that we try to push. And what we have done here and what people have done has been of incredible magnitude in terms of addressing the issues of genocide. I was thinking that maybe we should see the clip and then we can continue if it's okay with you. But before we begin, as we said before, people are trying to come up with ideas of reconciliation, reconstruction, and so on and so forth. And I've probably said this, but many concepts or what was sacred in Rwanda is no longer sacred. I gave you a whole list of priests who were killed by the, roommates. 3 weeks ago, a priest was killed in the bathtub by another priest. So I gave you a whole list. And before, the Catholic Church was almost a place of, safe haven. Prior to that, people could go, they could be protected. Now the church is no longer there. People have created their own churches, but they are also coming up with new covenants or new symbol of reconciliation. But there's a proliferation of many other churches in the country, and people try to forget through that. One thing that I really would like you to listen to is a song, before we go to the presentation. That song, I probably, you listened to it when I came to Santa Rosa. But that song, probably you've heard it before. But it's a song of reconciliation, and it shows, it's like a picture of the whole genocide and the issues that are still faced in Rwanda. And when you go to Rwanda, you hear that song, and it will represent what people are trying to build. That is still out there, but that song brings it together. They say, give me the courage to forgive, but not to forget, not to be revengeful, and so on and so forth. So there are many things that the Rwandan society is trying to do. And I think in this context, I would like you to listen to it first before we see the PowerPoint. Thanks. Judy, did you give it to him? I just wanted you to hear the melody in case you go to Rwanda, you don't know what it means. Yeah. Yeah, so I'll talk briefly about what we are doing now in Rwanda, but we can start with the movie, the PowerPoint. Wanted to tell you briefly about, we'll start with the scenes of genocide. This was made by Friends of Rwanda Association when we had our fundraising event last November. And Myrna and Barbara said maybe we should bring it in here. So I brought the PowerPoint. Unfortunately, the music was disconnected, so we have to play another one in the background. And at the end of the scenes of, whenever I see housing, most of them are living memorials. You're probably not the ones you went to visit. There is a big one in Kigali that is well tended, where people go and visit and so on and so forth. But most of the schools in Rwanda and the churches have become, burying grounds. And in essence, they've left the bodies unburied. You know, they are out because they want people at least to remember that really genocide did occur. And, you know, we are going to start with that. At the end, we look at a little bit of recovery. And the recovery place, we see the children and what we are trying to achieve over there. Thank you. Yeah.
So the music won't play with it.
Because the music won't play with it, so we will just rather just play the presentation or.
Any techies in the audience?
The problem is how the machine works.
How the machine works? Oh, it doesn't control.
So this, I can't have this going and then play through the PC speakers. I go through a DVD player and have a PC going and then the music that's asked and all set up. So I was able to do these before on DVD.
Okay. Let's just.
Yeah, we did that.
Just
The slides and.
Okay.
Everybody can remember the song and then hum.
Yeah, maybe you can. Yeah.
It's an either or system.
Either or, right?
Yeah.
That's a church.
Mm-hmm. Is that being dubbed in, you know?
Okay. It's a mass grave.
Yeah, it's a masquerade.
Those are orphans.
Yeah, those are kids who were killed in.
They were killed.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, those are
They are dead.
dead children.
The only survivors in their family. Too.
The reason you're seeing this is that many people were just left where they were murdered, and they're removed.
That's right.
This is someone I guess who survived but was attacked with a machete.
With a machine. You see the Pope, you know, it was all over the churches when you see people dying over there. Pretty common to have children, raising adult children now in Rwanda.
Once again, corpses that were just left.
Until now, people are still burying people. You know, you'll see the end.
Those are weapons. Were they confiscated?
They were confiscated when the RPF came in. Those are, it's pretty much like the landscape in Rwanda now with the crosses all over. So. We have more than 300,000 prisoners. And a couple of months ago, they released about it, and it was a big outcry. We're going to the place where the children are. This is the memorial in Kigali. You know, those are the children born during or after genocide. That's the place.
Sewing machine.
One of the sewing machine
Yeah.
right there. Yeah. And this is one of the things they made. Children.
You notice the treadle. There's no electricity, so people provide the power.
Some of the children. Near the place where we have the school, we're paying respect to people who died there. Those are the children again. Remember? That's a sorghum beer. Usually people have to share to show unity and friendship. Every single family usually have their own memorial, such as that one. That's another student who went with me to Rwanda. This was last summer when they were burying the bones. It says, let's remember our people who died during genocide.
Never can.
That is a sister, that's her.
Is that Kigali?
That's Kigali, and the house you saw is the museum, the memorial. All these houses are full of bodies. Over there. He's the guardian of one of the memorial center. Yeah, that's the Congo. Many people died in this area. It's between Rwanda and Burundi. Kenya. No, Congo. Sorry. Near the lake. That's the sister organization we walk through when we go to Rwanda. One of the houses for the school.
How many children are there, Mathilde?
In this space, we have 4 centers, and in the center we have about 120. Those are the graduates. Yeah.
Could you get the light, please? Thank you.
Yeah. I'll just say a few things, and then Judy and Becky are probably going to speak. But when the needs, the primary needs of people are not met, it's very difficult to move away from genocide and the effects of genocide. And we've felt that connecting to the children, especially because, as you can see, it's a nation of children, mostly. You know, one thing that is missing in Rwanda are older people. You know, and it's a sad thing because it was a society built upon, you know, wisdom that we get from grandparents, from people, you know, grown-ups. And now we have many children raising adult children. As we speak, even in Dosena, we have children having adult children at 14, 15, and so on and so forth. So we don't know how far it will get. Unless there's some kind of intervention, or, you know, adult people coming in and providing that kind of family thing. And they have in Rwanda, we have a program that was started by a Jewish organization in Rwanda in Boston. They've started what they call a village, and the village is providing some kind of family relationship. People can go to school, come back. It's like going back to their families again. And they adapted it to the one in Israel. And it's working very well. And that's the dream we have to establish also in the area we have started to work with. Not just the programs. You know, we've started sewing schools, and people are taking care of their families. And when we say families, it's an extended family of everyone in the vicinity. But we are also working now on a wood shop school, and we started in January. It's working pretty well, and we are hoping that at least by giving some kind of economic leverage, they can start moving in trying to having a family or whatever family they can get. One thing I was at a rally for Darfur last week. And many students were asking this. They were saying we are pretty much overextended. You know, how can we have problems at home? We have problems in the United States. People kill other people. We just had this, horrible thing, tragedy taking place in the United States. How can you care about violence in faraway places? The problem is that, or the issue is that now we are connected whether we want it or not. The world is like a village. The people who have killed in Rwanda can come and kill here. That's just on very primal level. We are talking about people are moving, ideas are circulating. We are in a global village. And unfortunately, no one can wash their hands on genocide in Rwanda. Many countries contributed to genocide. It's not just those people over there, meaning that it behooves to us as people, as people of, or human, humanity, to deal with genocides wherever they occur, whether it's in Darfur, whether it's in Rwanda, whether it's in any place. But we have to think in terms of in terms of humanity. Genocide kills people. It's one individual at a time, even when it kills millions of people by grenades. These are people who are like me and you, and and when I think about it, my idea of remembering the people has been at least one at a time to remember who they were as people, as individuals. Talk to my father or say what they used to do, because otherwise it doesn't make any sense. And it becomes just mass killings. Mass killings, who dies in mass killings? Those are people who breathe. It's like going to Los Angeles and finishing the whole city in one day. And I'm hoping that, especially as students, we've seen that usually students are the ones in the forefront for change. You can go back to civil rights and do other things. If students are not involved, nobody else will be involved. When you hear about genocide, even writing one letter can mean a big thing. It starts with one block. We can't count on governments. Governments compromise. Governments have priorities. But us as people, we have to look at what is right and go for it and push. And one voice is going to add to two voices, three voices, four voices. And, I'm hoping that when we said last year, I think, or the year before, I was saying, let's say genocide never again. But when I say that, I feel kind of funny. Doesn't mean anything. Because people die even now when we are sitting here, So saying it won't happen again is just a dream. And I'm hoping that at least in our lifetime we can make that dream our own, struggle, not to just say somebody else will do it. Because if we don't do it here, nobody else will. It won't. And I'm going to leave you here, and if you have any questions, you can really ask. As I said, my more formal notes were left in the car, but I think it's about what I wanted to say anyway. And I thank you very much again. It's always a privilege and opportunity for me to come back here, and even when I'm busy, I come, because I feel very good when I'm on this campus, especially in your program. We don't have many Holocaust or genocide studies in the country, let alone in other parts of the world. So what you are doing is already big, and it's in the forefront of fighting against the genocide, because it starts with ideas. Another handout I gave you, you probably have seen it maybe in your classes, is a handout on the signs of genocide, the steps leading to genocide. And those are very important to keep us, it's very simple in a simple language, but to keep them with you. Whatever handouts I gave are simple, but sometimes if you look at what is happening, you can say, maybe it's something we need to start decrying. This shouldn't be happening even in our midst, and that would be the first major victory you can bring against the genocide if everyone is standing. And I'm going to let Julie, speak, and thank you very much again.
We're going to give you an opportunity to do what Americans do best, and that is to be people who spend. But before we do, I'd like to introduce you to Julie. Julie is a graduate of Sonoma State University. She's got a bachelor's degree in sociology. She was in one of my classes and was in the lecture series, just like you. She and Becky had reason to go to Africa as volunteers in another actually, I think you were paid, weren't you? Yeah. Paid position to go to Africa to do some work using their skills that they had learned as sociology majors. And they have a slideshow. And Julie is going to give you some information about what they learned when they went there. So, Julie Leischman.
Ooh, sorry about that. First and foremost, I am just so grateful to have this opportunity to be here, to see Mathilde again, and thankful that Professor Goodman gave me this opportunity, because when I sat here, just as you're sitting here right now, some years ago, I couldn't just sit in my seat. I had to do something. And I remember talking to Mathilde and asking her, what can I do? Is there anything I can do for you? And she invited me to come to Rwanda. And it is a memorable experience. And it's just great to come here today because it grounds me again. So I really appreciate it. Now, when I was going to Rwanda, initially I wanted to go there because I don't know, at least I did, had a lot of unanswered questions. I wanted this genocide to make sense to me. I wanted to tangibly touch it and to realize, how can people do this? How can humans do this? And I went there anxiously trying to get these questions answered, and also to support Mathilde's great action with working with FORA and helping these children find direction and sustain their life independently. But while I was there, I was given the incredible opportunity to live with 3 survivors of the genocide that are very closely related to Mathilde. And while I stayed there, I just even thinking of the word survivor, I mean, it is so loaded to me now. It's such a very strong word, because I can't fathom what survivor means to these individuals. They lost hundreds of their family members. And to them, the 3 survivors I was staying in, they're family, but they're each coming from different families. They are all helping each other, and they're a new creative family, much as like what Mathilde is saying they're trying to do now, is getting orphans and providing them this structure. Now, just as many, as she showed already, the museum, there's the Rwandan Genocide Museum that I was able to go with one of the survivors. And in walking through the Holocaust Museum, there's nothing, I mean the Genocide Museum, there's nothing like walking through there with a survivor. I had a language barrier. I couldn't speak to her in English, but literally walking through the museum with her, she would grab my hands and bring me into rooms. And I would see these these clothing that were hanging up that were like invisible people were sitting in them. And there would be glass cases surrounding me, and she would grab my hand and she rubbed them around these glass cases. And without words, she was just trying to have me just begin to understand that she related to this. This is her reality. Just as Mathilde was saying, it's so hard. I mean, you see these caskets, and you're told there's 50 people, bones, that are put into each casket. Not one person, 50. And just to fathom that, even me seeing it, I can't. I really can't. So, just as much as these mass graves are in this museum, they're finding bodies on a daily basis. Right before you go up to the museum, you see them there's like a casket making facility that there's more and more people, and there's still killing going on today. When we went and attended a FORA organization graduation of Mathilde's, I remember the mayor standing up and talking, and in the same sense of him congratulating his graduating class, he said, please protect yourself against AIDS and stop the killing. Now, can you imagine sitting at your graduation this coming May, and can you imagine, Professor Goodman or whoever standing up and saying, congratulations, now stop killing each other. It's something you can't understand. So now, while communities are trying to heal from this atrocity, they have a tribunal system I'm pretty sure you're all aware of. It's called the Gacaca. Now, while the Gacaca, just briefly, the Gacaca is actually a tribunal system where, hundreds of years ago would have been a great system where they would have, let's say your next door neighbor came and stole your cow. And once they stole it, you were supposed to go in front of the tribal community, the jury community, and you're supposed to be in front of the person you stole from, and they're supposed to come up with the general understanding or price of what you just did. Now, can you imagine trying to have, what they have now are these people, the 300,000 Mathilde was saying, that are in these prisons. Can you imagine grabbing a perpetrator or somebody who participated in this genocide, put them in front of the family, and they're supposed to graphically describe what they did to the individual, to this family's father and mother. And can you imagine just sitting there and at the end, assuming that without the threats that you've already received from the perpetrator's family, that you're actually going to tell them what you deserve and what price is on this life that you lost? You just can't. And that is definitely one of the biggest, most complicated, controversial justice systems. And not to mention Mathilde spending her time going to teach at the local university. And her goal is to try to inform reconciliation and teach about a future direction. But Mathilde told us so many times that she can't talk about the Gacaca openly. She can't talk about what really happened to the Hutus and the Tutsis. There's so many restrictions. It's almost like a communist feeling of, let's just avoid it, but it's everywhere. Like she was saying, there are scars on people's faces, on the buildings. It is quite evident that the genocide is still very evident, but you just can't. Mathilde is stuck with being even a teacher trying to educate the future social workers that this country is going to be having. Now, while many people like Mathilde are striving and having an incredible organization like Fora, and I believe there's Jam, right? It's called Jam? The organization Jam, where it's her dream, where you can actually teach these children vocational skills, because you'd imagine you learn it from your mother or your father or your sibling, or your relatives. They don't have anybody. So she's trying to help them sustain themselves. In order to even begin to think of reconciliation, you have to know survival. You have to know your basic skills. So I only stand here today because as a person and as who I am, I couldn't just sit in the seat and just hear the stories and write my paper and get a really good grade. I personally had to show up and I had to see it myself. Now, are my questions answered? If anything, they're worse. If anything, they're that much more heavy on my shoulders, and there's nothing that makes sense with how such a crime against humanity could occur. But what I can say is that I have found that the first step of making a difference is education. Educating anybody you talk to, listening to what's happening in Sudan, understand and identify it and name it, and talk to those around you. And not only that, but I encourage you to volunteer your time, volunteer your money and your voice, because I didn't go to Rwanda thinking I was going to change Rwanda or I was going to change the world or make a huge difference. If anything, they made a difference to me. But what I would hope is that step by step and writing letters and things will help prevent possible future genocides to occur. So once again, please take that responsibility. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Okay, earlier this year, we had the opportunity to be typical Americans and do what we do best, and that is to spend money, and we did that for Darfur. We were the recipients of a very wonderful bowl from Mathilde. I'd like to pass it around today. Hopefully you'll reach in deep in your pockets and help us make a difference once again to the children of Rwanda, who we have this wonderful bond with. It's not about money. It's about other things. It is about you learning and understanding and passing on your knowledge to other people. I have often said to you that you take on a very special burden when you take this class, one that is unlike any other that you experience in your college education. And you now have that burden because you know. You can no longer say, well, I don't know anything about that. But help us, once again, show Mathilde how deeply we feel about what has happened in Rwanda and how committed we are to make sure that it doesn't happen anywhere else. So I'm going to pass our bowl. There are also some activities on campus for the Human Rights Club, which is raising money for Darfur, that I hope you will keep aware of. I'd like to call Mathilde up and have you ask her any questions you have.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
This has definitely been one of the most meaningful things for me as the director of the center, is to be able to spread the word, not just about what happened, but about what can happen now. So, questions? Anybody ready to go to Rwanda this summer? Think about it. Julie's ready to go back. Do you have any questions?
I saw the movie Hotel Rwanda, and I read the articles that I can find. I still don't have real basic at this point knowledge of what happened. And what's to keep a major horrible Holocaust? I understand people are killing people now, but what keeps it from becoming another 1994?
In Rwanda? Oh.
Sorry. It's a very difficult. We don't have any kind of infrastructure to stop genocide right now. You know, the only thing maintaining peace and security and so on is the military. You know, but you can ask yourself how long the military is going to stay in Rwanda. You know, on one hand, we have a push from the international community to democratize, meaning that once you open up the country, you have to do it at a time when you can also set up some mechanism to prevent genocide. Do we have it in Rwanda? I don't think so. As a matter of fact, there are many survivors who have already died when they released the prisoners. And one thing I would say here is that there's no country that can come up of what Rwanda came out and be functional. Rwanda is trying, like many countries, but we are not there yet. We are not there yet. And I'm always afraid that something can still happen. You know, it can still happen. You know, we don't have any, the justice system is very weak. You know, you can imagine even the people who were tried in the international tribunal, there are still very few, and the international tribunal at least has money. In Rwanda, we didn't have more than 2 major jails prior to 1994. We didn't have lawyers, we didn't have judges, we didn't have all those people. That's why they are trying what Judy is saying, the traditional justice system. But that was used in the past to try things like when you were stealing a car, not when you kill 50 people. You know, you are being judged by, you know, who is judging you? You are judged sometimes with people who have their own liabilities. Some of them have killed. You are judging your brother or your sister. So there are no strong mechanism to make it work at this point. I'm not, I mean, it's not a hopeless situation because people at least are aware of what is happening. And I think that there are many good initiatives that are born in foreign countries inside the country, and we are trying to do whatever, you know, we can do. But there's no strong mechanism preventing genocide anywhere in Africa, if I might say that. Yeah. Yes.
We can read and we get this, I have this sense of the state sending out a command using the radio. But it was a very localized mob scene across the whole country. Were there any communities that didn't go up in flames? I mean, who resisted or?
If I could repeat, the question is that although there were instructions to start the genocide on the radio, it was a very localized event. And John's question is, were there any communities where this did not take place?
No. The only place that, even that is not really backed up by any solid evidence, is that the Muslims, the small Muslim community that is very minimal in Rwanda, was the one that protected the people. If you are looking at a group as such, many individuals moved to protect their neighbors. That's why there are many survived, or at least you can talk about surviving genocide. You know, it was a very complex situation in which that someone who has killed the neighbor could come and protect the other neighbor. So sometimes it happened. My aunt, you remember the one who was cut on the head, was protected by a neighbor. You know, he refused to finish her off. But I don't know if it was a favor or something else. But there are children who went with the Hutus in Congo, and we found them at the end of genocide. They just walked and walked and walked. But there are very few people who chose to protect the people, who put their lives on line. That's why when Hotel Rwanda came, at least the guys symbolized the goodness and the people who chose to protect their neighbors. And but when you think there are places where they resisted and they stayed together until the end, like the region where I come from in Butare. They were killed at the end of genocide, at the end. Because this time the military came and said, you have to kill your neighbors, you have to do that.
The military came to the people?
They came to the region because the whole Butare region, the university town, the prefect, the one who was ruling over the whole place, had asked his people to really stay calm and not to kill and so on. They came and they killed him, dragged him into the street to show no one is safe. So the people started to kill the people. So on one hand, there are people who killed really because they had to. You know, there's no question that there are people who didn't want to kill in the beginning of genocide. But then it became a free-for-all, either by fear or because they were driven to do so or because they wanted to kill. You know, or out of greed. You know, if I kill you, I'll take your land, I'll take whatever is left. So most people didn't kill because of that strong ideology people are trying to put out there. They killed for a number of reasons. I asked a guy who killed my parents, and he said, you know, actually I didn't kill them, my sons did. I just took the sweater of your father. You know, and he said he had malaria. He said he had malaria. He couldn't have killed because he was sick. So I said, it means that if we were not sick, then we were going to kill. He said, don't ask me those questions. That's all he said. But the guy, I grew up with him. He was a friend of the family. And I can really attest to the fact that I asked him if he was happier. I said, are you happy now? He said he was not happy because the world he knew is gone. He doesn't communicate with his own sons. And the people who grew up with him are dead. You know, so it's madness, yes. Evil thing that was in the whole country, definitely. Mob mentality, everything was there. And then you are looking at the people who are being, you know, they considered the president as the father of the nation. The father. You know, we are not talking about democratic, countries. And when he says, those are your enemies, these are cockroaches, these are people you have to avoid, these are the people, they follow. And this is what, we need another type of propaganda to teach that people are together. But the problem with that is that without an informed population, they can change any time, unfortunately. That's what I've seen. Because really when you go to history of Rwanda, people will tell you, yeah, the Hutu, the Tutsi were divided. It was a very complex society. As a matter of fact, I think I told you about that. There was an aunt who was in jail because she was married to a Hutu guy. And among her children, they are the ones who took one side and the other one died in genocide. So it was not just those people who, we versus them. It was a very difficult situation. You know, and That's why it's also very difficult to address it. You have to really question what brought us together to begin with. In Rwanda, the way to reconciliation, the country believes we have to forget about our ethnicity. You have to say you are not Hutu, you are not Tutsi, you are not Twa, you are Rwandan. You know, but this I call really historical amnesia. You can't get amnesia. You know, the people who have machetes are not going to look at your identity card. They didn't have to during that time. So you have first to face what's wrong with that and to accept those differences before you can come together, you know. And we are not there yet. You know, we are trying for political solvency or political whatever to try to go beyond and say we are Rwandans. And yet, there are those Rwandans who believe they are the victims and other ones who have been killers, and they are still living together. It's a reality. You can't go past. Yes, thanks.
So you said that Hotel Rwanda is, in the beginning, it was important because it exposed what had happened to the world. Is there something else that a student who might want to say, to show their parents or have their parents see that tells the story more accurately?
If I have many better movies than Hotel Rwanda, ever since, even when I saw it at first, I didn't like it because it was packaged for the audience here. You know, it was packaged. It's like any, and really, I can't blame the people who made the movie. It's a Hollywood movie. You have to make a movie that people will see. Right. Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense. And that's how Hotel Rwanda is. When you look at that, the good thing about it, because it's easy for people here to see it, at least they learn about genocide, something we couldn't achieve with talking or with doing things. So in that light, I liked Hotel Rwanda because at least it put in the minds of people what happened in Rwanda. That's fine. But as far as the accuracy of how it was portrayed, most of it is just a packaged small thing at the hero. They wanted to create some kind of Schindler in Rwanda. It's right. Not. It's not. And that's the problem that we have. Because the person, the hero, Rusesabagina, has now assumed the movie persona. Oh. Instead of the other way around, he's written a book now called An Ordinary Man based upon the movie. And it's not his life. And that's what he portrays out there when he's being invited to come and talk. And then he has a political party. He has a big foundation. In Switzerland, they gave him $500,000 supposedly for the foundation to help the orphans. But he's helping the political party instead. You know, but his whole campaign has given more, he has rendered force and energy to the extremist Hutu. Because now they have someone who is a spokesperson, who is good, and the world see him as a good person. So he's trying to clean the image of all the Hutus. And that's, on one hand, many analyses about genocide have done something very bad. It's to collectivize guilt. You know, that kind of collectivity of guilt is also promoting people like Rusesabagina. Because when you come from that group, I understand it's a self-protection, survival mechanism. I try to clean the image of my own group too. And it's because of that collectivization of guilt. There are many Hutus who didn't kill. You know, so that's why, for instance, when I talk about the killing, I talk about Interahamwe. Interahamwe are the groups who are killing people. But saying Hutu killed, many Hutus killed. But even if there are 5 Hutus who didn't kill, I don't want them to be in that group of the people who have killed. You know, and it makes people very defensive, obviously.
So the movie Sometimes in April?
Sometimes in April is a very good movie.
Okay.
You know,
Sometimes
in April is a very good movie. It shows really what happened in the country. It's more complex. It looks at, those kind of things that are layered in Rwandan society more than Hotel Rwanda. You know, Hotel Rwanda is a history of one guy, a fictitious type of movie. You know, so it's, yes.
You spoke of how the Catholic Church played played or didn't play a role and have subsequently left. Can you speak some more about that?
See, many Rwandans are Catholic. You know, we were all Catholic. You know, we grew up with the Catholic Church. And the church in Rwanda and the political machine were intertwined. So the people, for instance, the bishop was also very strong in the political party system. And when it happened, he was one of the vehicle for the Hutu ideology of genocide. Those houses that you put in the pictures, and I showed you in the pictures where people were killed, the bishop there is in jail for it because he called the people there to protect them and they killed them with a grenade. One bishop. And the list I've put out there in handouts, you have names and names of, priests, Jesuit priests or Ordo priests, killed by their own comrades in the church. So not only did the church was complicit in killing the regular people, but they killed also their own people within the church. A huge risk. So so because of that, most people have abandoned the Catholic Church. They are joining those new age type of churches in which you can bury your sorrow, and Hutus and Tutsi come and hold hands and they say whatever was there we forgive, we forget, and we sing. When you go to Rwanda, that's one conspicuous legacy of abandoning the well-established churches to join those ones. Because at least they were not connected to the killings, or they were not there to begin with. Right. And then you have those prophets, we have people who can see the future, who can see whatever. We have miracles, we have, a symptom of, what is there in society and so on. But the Catholic Church, more than anything, I think, let people down. Because even if the Pope, who was connected to the president of Rwanda, he used to come to visit, he has one big center built by him. If we had sent a letter, one, saying, do not kill, protect these people, something could have been done. If we had sent it through the bishops, something could have been done. Because they were in a position to save many people. The majority of the people in Rwanda died in churches. They died in churches. All the churches are burying grounds wherever you go. So that shows you what was happening. People went because they felt they would be safe. Right. And that's where they died. Yeah.
Churches traditionally are places of sanctuary.
Of sanctuary, yes. Right. Yeah. So myself, I have many, misgivings when it comes to church, but I understand also the church is made of people. It's a...
Yes?
How do you go about approaching teaching the children, especially those that weren't alive during that time, about what happened to them and in their country? Can they comprehend it? And how do you explain to them what happened when, as an adult, I feel like I can barely comprehend what happened?
It's very difficult. They have now those type of propaganda where they teach people, how they should behave, how they should believe, how they should live with each other, and so on and so forth. But I think it goes beyond that. You have to go beyond, let me give you an example. Depending upon who you connect with, you look at the less tainted thing. What brings you together as people that is beyond what was tainted during genocide. The family was not respected. The church was, thrown out. The value system, usually that many Rwandans prize, the Rwandans always felt they were kind of, I'm not going to say superior, but they felt they had a wonderful culture. But it didn't save anyone. People didn't use those traditions to stop what was happening. Like killing pregnant women, that was a taboo before, right? So how are you going to teach? One thing I can tell you I have been doing, and I think your friend Jad took the project I was working on. We look at the concepts or stuff that brought people together prior to the madness. Like now I'm working on Rwanda folk tale projects. The Rwanda folk tale project is collecting all the folk tales in Rwanda where people are identified with everyone. the heroes, and I'm choosing the themes of reconciliation within. So you use whatever you take, whether it's education, whether it's something you can bring to them that they can identify with. You know, you create a covenant. Someone said you can make a rock holy. You know, you can build something. You can take a rock and you can say, this is a very important thing. And people can identify with that. A song can be important, even when they sing it. But I'm saying that we are still, it's in the making. Even ideas on how you can, you know, you probably met with the psychotherapist at the memorial.
Yes.
You know, there are many groups of people who go to Rwanda just to work with the children one-on-one. But they have to find someone local who can understand their culture and how they understand, you know, what we are bringing to them. So I think it's a multifaceted way to approach such a thing. When you go to Rwanda, the first few years after genocide, what was so amazing was how people were talking. Whenever they got someone who was out, they talked non-stop. Because usually other people around them had stopped listening. You know, everyone has the same issues that you don't listen to the person who is on your side. So whenever they saw someone who was willing to listen, just to listen, they would tell you for 2 days without a stop. They would talk. Even talking is a very important thing because most people don't have anyone to tell what has been held in for so long. You know, that kind of dislocation and social, social dislocation and so on is very real in Rwanda, and it's a very difficult thing to go beyond. You have many women. You know, one thing that I can tell you that is very positive in Rwanda is that many women, especially who have been victimized by genocide, especially the ones who were raped and have AIDS, have started to form many big organizations. And they are providing models for other people to organize the same way. And they are very vocal in terms of getting at least resources from the government and so on and so forth. And they are, supporting the people. We are trying to connect widows and children so they can reconstitute a family, even though it's not your family, but it's still a family, whatever you can do.
Okay. Join me in thanking the chair.
Thank you very much.
Just a quick word of thank you. We are continually overwhelmed at your generosity of spirit. We collected over $200 today in support of Friends of Rwanda. But what I want to say is how many of you looked at me and said, I don't have anything with me today. And I'm going to be asking Myrna to bring the bowl back next week so that we can continue to support Mathilde's amazing work with these children. Thank you.